Here's Reinman in the Morning, on demand from 102.1 and 105.3, The Shark.
When I was 26 years old, I got hired to write for Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, still my favorite job of all time. And that 12:30 show was so cool because we got to meet so many famous people. Among them, Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield. That's right, Ben and Jerry. They used to come to our staff parties and actually serve us ice cream. It was amazing. So it was really fun when we were able to reconnect and talk after all these years about a very special anniversary they just marked here in New England. Here they are now, Ben and Jerry.
Hit it, John.
My next guest co-founded a small business here in New England that has since gone on to be a bit of a global sensation. Whether it's Chunky Monkey or Cherry Garcia, we all have our favorite flavors, and they're celebrating the 40th anniversary of a stunt that literally put them on the map. Welcome to Reinman in the Morning, Ben and Jerry. Gentlemen, how's it going in Vermont?
We are rocking.
Beautiful day in Vermont. It's always a beautiful day in Vermont.
Rocking and rolling. And what flavor are you eating this morning, John?
I went with cookie dough. I know you guys.
All righty, that's a nice way to start the day.
You guys kind of came up with that, right? That was your thing. People don't know.
That was our thing, right? Just kind of like the guy who invented vanilla.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you say that, but it's like I was saying to someone recently, like we all take cookie dough for granted, but it's like imagine if you invented cookie dough. That's amazing. Like, did you guys just finally say, hey, the heck with the cookies? We just want the dough. People eat when they make these things, right?
You know, I think the credit goes to an anonymous ice cream maker working in concert with an anonymous chocolate chip cookie maker.
There you go.
And they said, hey, let's throw one in the other.
I gotcha. Well, I have to ask you, this is a kind of a big weekend for you guys because 40 years ago, this past Saturday, you made news all over the globe when you built the world's biggest ice cream sundae in St. Albans, Vermont. Where did this idea come from, and how did you get everyone to go along with this?
I can remember it like it was yesterday. There was this guy, Jim Hilton, who had become the head of the recreation department for the city of St. Albans, Vermont, which is kind of a little down and out at the time. It had been a railroad town, and the railroads weren't coming through, and he came up with this idea. He got in touch. He called me up. He said, hey, I want to make the world's largest sundae. And I said, yeah, sure, why not?
Well, I mean, first of all, I've seen pictures of this thing. And there's one where the ice cream is taller than a church. It's like a Godzilla of ice cream. What was in it? What were all the things you put in this thing?
It was 9 tons of ice cream.
Oh, my gosh.
A ton is 2,000 pounds, so that's like 18,000 pounds of ice cream. It was built inside like an outdoor above-ground pool that had a special food-grade liner.
Yeah.
And then we had the people stacking up these 2.5-gallon tubs that were from head to toe in these sterile jumpsuits.
Well, so who is...
And what went into it, I mean, there was, gobs of cherries and gobs of walnuts and hot fudge and whipped cream and who knows what.
It was an ice cream sundae.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, ice cream Sunday through Saturday, this thing was. But, well, let me ask you guys, because, I mean, is there any point, because you're talking about people in jumpsuits and everything, it sounds like the big dig in Massachusetts, but of ice cream. Between Ben and Jerry, was there a point when you were making this where one said to the other, what have we gotten ourselves into, or were you both all in, let's go crazy with this?
Yeah, I think it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, you got to go for it.
We had the bucket truck to put the big cherry on the top.
That's just so unbelievable. I just want to see that. They should have that sign in Vermont, like in, road crews working. That should be like Ben and Jerry cherry placement going on. Please take your time on the road.
Well, they ought to have one of those like brass plaques at the site. This was the site of the world's largest sundae.
Dude.
Yeah, it ought to be memorialized.
They don't have anything at this site? They don't have anything memorializing that you guys did this?
I've never seen it, but John, I think that you've got a big audience, and you could start a movement to get this plaque properly placed.
I'm on it. I am absolutely on it because that's my thing. That's what I like doing, and I'm absolutely going to do that because people, it's Ben & Jerry's. It's a New England institution. I read this. You guys, 98 ice cream flavors, right? You have 98 flavors?
We don't know.
Who can keep track?
Well, I asked because it's just around 100. Have you ever been tempted to just like go into a Baskin Robbins and go, 31 amateur hour? Or do you kind of just like...
Well, in the early days, we promoted the fact that we had 34 flavors, and that was definitely in order to do Baskin Robbins 3 better.
Dude, that's such a New England move right there. That's such a, you put up a fence while I'm building a nice wooden fence next to my house. Yeah, that's it's that passive aggression. Yeah.
Vermont is the only state in the union that never had a Baskin Robbins because it's too cold here.
Oh,
that was the key to our success.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. That was an ice cream burn. That's what that was. You melted them with that one.
Yeah, baby.
You've teamed up with so many causes and so many celebrities and musicians over the years to create custom flavors. Was there ever anyone you tried to work with, but you just couldn't agree on the flavor? Like you kept going back and forth and said, man, I don't know. This might be a little bit too difficult.
Not that I recall. We did work. We currently have a flavor with Jimmy Fallon, and it's his second.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
His first flavor didn't really fly, I guess. It was a wonderful flavor, of course, but not enough people wanted to eat it.
Oh, really?
It had chocolate-covered potato chips in it.
Late-night snack.
Well, the problem was that the potato chips weren't really potato chips. They were potato chip crumb balls that were chocolate-coated. And
did you actually have people writing in and saying, Dear Ben & Jerry, the potato chips here do not seem authentic. I'm not sure about that. Were you actually getting potato complaints from people?
In the early days, Jerry used to read every piece of consumer mail that was like snail mail that came in those days. And so
it's because I was making the ice cream and you needed to know what people thought about it.
That's amazing.
Right. But since he's no longer making the ice cream, we're no longer reading the consumer mail. So I can't tell you. If it was me, if I were going to write in, I would say, hey, man, if it's going to be chocolate-covered potato chips, make it a real chip. Why don't you?
But then we got to also follow up and say, I believe the Tonight Dough is like a top fiver for you guys, right?
Tonight Dough is definitely in the top 5, and it's an amazing flavor. It's one of our most complex. It's got chocolate and caramel ice creams. It's got chocolate chip cookie dough, peanut butter cookie dough, chocolate cookie swirl. It's got a lot going on.
In 1988, it's another anniversary for you guys. This will be, 35 years. You were named U.S. Small Business Persons of the Year by President Reagan. And that's great. But, Ben, I read you had to borrow a waiter's jacket because you didn't own a suit. Is that to go to the White House?
Well, actually, at the time, I think that I ducked into the local Banana Republic and bought what they called an Italian waiter's jacket.
From Banana Republic to go to the White House. So, first of all, what was that like as two guys from Vermont? I mean, you start out in a gas station. That's where you're making your ice cream. And now you're at the White House, for crying out loud. I mean, was it the thinking, oh my gosh, where do we go from here? Or were you kind of like, hey, if this is where we go, this is pretty good?
The thinking was, whoever vetted this for Reagan made a big mistake.
I was going to say, I didn't want to be the one to say it, but the two guys from Vermont are here.
That Reagan said the only words he's ever said to me in his life, and ever will say, which was, which one is Jerry?
Which one's Jerry? We have him here. I like the ice cream cones. Well, I would follow up on that with, a lot of people in the past few years have said, reevaluated their lives and what they were doing. And, what advice would you give to people who are thinking of starting their own small businesses, maybe right here in New England?
Do something you love, because you're going to be doing a lot of it and you're going to be up to your ears in it.
And what should they maybe think when they get that first little bit of resistance when someone says, "Oh man, you can't do that"? What did you always tell yourself when there was some doubt?
There's always people that doubt you. There's always people that are going to tell you that you can't do it. And, if everybody listened to that, there wouldn't be anything new going on.
I was thinking of one of those little, what do they call it? Aphorisms. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
I have one last question because I know you guys are super busy, but it's from my 6-year-old daughter, Sadie. Big Ben & Jerry's consumer. How come Ben & Jerry's comes in, quote, tiny containers? Now she means pints instead of the great big tubs, because she loves Ben & Jerry's.
Well, we always thought of a pint as a single service portion. And the other thing is that, the longer ice cream hangs out in your freezer, the lower the quality goes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You got your modern self-defrosting freezer, and that means that the ice cream actually thaws and refreezes 2 or 3 times a day. And too much of that is really bad for the ice cream. So the idea is to eat it quick.
That's what I'll say, Sadie, so you can eat it quick. For all things Ben & Jerry's, visit benandjerrys.com. My next guest was getting ready to do a couple of shows at the wonderful Music Hall Lounge in downtown Portsmouth. Please welcome to Rhineman in the Morning, the one and only Tiffany. Tiffany, how's it going?
It is going well, thank you.
Have you ever been to Portsmouth, New Hampshire before?
I think I have before. It's been a while, but I'm so excited to be back, and we're going to have a blast. I'm bringing the funnest show. So this one makes me smile. Little retro, little rock and roll, and a little black light, guys. We're going to glow. Come glow with me.
Oh,
have fun. So,
that's amazing. So it's going to be like a light show and music too, right?
It is. It is. So we're making you work on this one and get involved and have some fun. So yeah, it's something I've never done before. So it's a lot of fun.
You've always been doing things that are brand new and different. I mean, gosh, you made mall concerts cool. I remember back in the 80s. That was just unbelievable. I got to tell you, you should check out the Fox Run Mall in Newington because, I mean, that would be a cool place. We'd love to have Tiffany come up sometime and do an awesome show over there at Fox Run.
Yeah, like I said, gosh, now you make me think of when the last time I was in the neighborhood, and it's probably been a few years, so I'm excited. I actually have a day off in your neck of the woods as well.
Dude, let's go to the mall. I'll tell you, we'll go to Fox.
Let's do it.
We'll go to Fox Goods. We'll go down to Palm Treats. It's all these great places. I got to show you. Oh my gosh!
Don't be shocked, guys, if I am in your local malls and all in your business, because I love to eat local. I'm a foodie. I have my company, Let's Food with Tiffany. We're always looking for mom and pop places, great local places to feature. And yes, the mall tour made me a mean shopaholic, of course.
Dude, I'm going to hold you to that. I have your number now. I'm going to hit you up.
I know you
Are you
do.
kidding me? What'd you do today? I went to the mall with Tiffany.
I know.
Excuse me, could you stay right here so I can call everyone I went to school with? Just one, but it's just 120 guys. Don't worry about it. You have Radical Reds clothing. What's Radical Reds clothing?
Well, I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and many, many years ago, probably about now, 10 years ago, I had boutiques here in Nashville. Again, there's that whole, shopping experience. The mall tour made me a mean shopaholic.
Yeah.
But traveling, I've always had a sense of fashion and love fashion and funky finds and vintage. And a lot of my friends throughout the years in the industry, of course, are makeup artists or stylists. So I've always been around these collectors of great fashion. And I ended up having that, again, that bug. So I opened up a boutique here in Nashville and then closed it to go mostly on the road to go back to music. But now I can have the best of both worlds. After the pandemic, I think it really forced people to kind of think outside the box and live life to the fullest. So Radical Reds is my online boutique, funky finds, vintage, one-of-a-kind pieces. I do really great kimonos and throws. And then I'm also just jewelry designer that I'm just starting. But I've paired out with a lot of people here in Nashville. One would be the Rhinestone Heiress, which is Manuel. If you know anybody here in Nashville, Manuel is a massive costume designer. His father, Nudie, who designed all of Elvis's costumes.
Oh, my gosh, yeah, yeah.
So great lineage to be a part of. And we're doing a great jewelry line for Radical Reds to be launched here in the summer. So lots going on in Tiff World.
That's awesome. And then you have the Let's Food with Tiffany Cooking Club. You said you're a foodie, and you're doing a cooking club now. So what?
Well, I mean, that took off even before the pandemic and all the lockdowns. I was doing cooking for the band, and I've always loved to entertain. And I've done a lot with Food Network. Guy Fieri is really one of my mentors. So, I already had that kind of happening. I didn't know really what I was going to be doing with it, but I saw potential, maybe cookbooks. And then again, COVID hit, and I was like, I can't go on the road. I can't sing. That's like the weirdest thing. I've been doing this since I was 9 years old, gigging and being on the road. And how do I self-soothe, keep myself sane, and still interact with my fans? And, I think like everybody, I was feeling lonely, and I was missing my family, who most of them have passed away.
Oh.
So I just started cooking and sharing that with my fans and making mostly my grandma's recipes because they really did make me feel comforted. And it just really took off as a cooking club. Now I've got a cookbook out with my friend Tom Brim, who is a master engineer from Blackbird Studios, one of the number 2 recording studios in the world, Martina McBride's studio. So, and he has long since catered a lot of her sessions. And that's it. We became friends and decided to do a cookbook together, which has led to my newest cookbook coming out. I believe it'll be out summer of next year. But, I've upped the stakes now. It's going to be published. It's going to be in Barnes & Noble and all that jazz now.
That's unbelievable. Congratulations.
I'm working up the ranks, guys. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
Well, since you're a foodie and you're a food expert and a great cook, let me ask you about a New England debate. What do you prefer more, the Maine lobster roll? They're the ones with mayonnaise, the traditional lobster roll, or do you like the Connecticut lobster roll, the ones with the warm butter?
Well, I don't like dairy, and I know that mayo is not like dairy, but to me, for most of my life, I have boycotted mayo. For some reason, my mom loved it so much she overkilled. And then I was really allergic when I was a kid about eggs, dairy, any of it. I grew out of it. But it just wasn't something that was on my palate. Of course, I cook with mayo. I do have to do it. But I'm a butter girl. Come on, I live in the South.
There you go. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Connecticut represent. And, yeah, bring it down south. I saw this, though, and I remember this. That you were at a venue called Great Woods in Mansfield, Massachusetts. I think it was 1989. It was Tiffany and New Kids on the Block, which just seems surreal to think that was the same bill. Well, what do you think is the biggest difference between maybe an 80s concert vibe and maybe some of the concerts you see now? Do you notice any major differences that stand out?
Oh, I mean, I think, concert live music now is really something just to celebrate. I love any bands out there, and I'm so supportive. Because as a musician, and I know my fellow musicians out there, our heart was really ripped out when we couldn't do what we love, which is connecting with people and show off and show our music off. And especially for me, I had the new album ready. I was weeks away, and then that's it. So it's a heartbreak because, I mean, this is what we love to do. I love to entertain people. So I think, concerts are back up and running. I think people are really taking some different chances. I love the pairings of the different bands right now.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel that is a little bit of a wink back to the 80s. I mean, remember when we used to buy tickets, it was sometimes 3 or 4 bands.
Yep.
I mean, I can tell you living in L.A., going to those clubs, I mean, you could see a lot of different bands that were really awesome all in one night at the Troubadour, the Whiskey, all of that. So I think, with economy and all the things and adjustments in our industry, we might be getting the benefit of that, though, to have, the best of the best out there, people reworking their shows like me, having a good time, being grateful to be out there. And then some of these bigger concerts, it's great. We're seeing some of our favorite bands together. So I think we're making the best of a bad situation now.
Yeah, well, turning it into a fantastic situation, which brings me to Shadows and the Pop Art Show. So again, tell me about the album. Tell me about the new music you've been making that you're going to be performing in this crazy light show.
Well, the new music is a little more rock and roll. I mean, I've been turning in that direction for quite some time. So if you're true Tim Sam, you know. But if you're not, then this is just a natural progression for me. I've been doing this since 2000, songwriting, and really working as an artist to get, people to understand that I'm a live artist. I'm a lifer. I come from country music, worked my way up through, LA and got lucky, of course, to have a record deal at 14. And I love all of that. I love the retro stuff. I'm very grateful. I would never shy away from that. So those songs, I think We're Alone Now, I Saw Him Standing There, Could Have Been, all the time. They're in all the TIFF shows. They're never going to leave. But as an adult, of course, I've grown up. And what seems natural for me and what my roots are is a little bit more rock and roll. Of course, I'm an LA girl. I'm an 80s girl.
Yeah.
So showing that rock side, and I think this album, Shadows, really does have, modern production with a little bit of a wink back to 80s rock and roll, little punk side, little go-go's, little Blondie, little Ramones, all of those things that make me really who I am as a musician, but also as a music lover.
For all things Tiffany, go to tiffanytunes.com. I have a very special guest here with me to talk about the Walk for Sight. His name is Randy Pierce. Randy, welcome to Rhineman in the Morning.
Oh, welcome to you and to everybody else. Good to be here.
Thank you. And I'm so happy you're here. You're here with your guide dog, Swirl.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be here without him. I'd be in the wrong place.
I called him Squirrel by mistake earlier. I think he's still a little upset with me.
What? I think he believed you. He was like, oh, look, a squirrel. Where?
I know. I said the wrong word. Randy's here to talk about the Walk for Sight. So tell me about this wonderful event and why it's so important to you.
Sure. Our organization is Future Insight. We were formerly the New Hampshire Association for the Blind. And for 112 years, we've been serving people of all ages, all levels of sight loss, low vision to no vision, and trying to help them get the training, the tools, some of the resources they need to succeed, to live and thrive their best lives. And this is our signature event, our biggest fundraiser, but it's also an awareness event. Starts right in the Capitol building in Concord. And why it's so important to me is because 33 years ago, I came to this organization when at 22, I lost my sight very dramatically, very suddenly and unexpectedly. And I felt helpless and hopeless. Lots of people do.
Yeah.
And with the services we provide, we transform lives. So much so that right 33 years later, they've asked me to come back and be the leader of the organization, not because I'm blind, but because I developed the skills to live and thrive my best life.
That's so amazing. And just real quick, the date. Can you remind me the date of
Sure, it's May 20th. It's going to start at 10 o'clock. We recommend people get there at 9:30. We've got a couple of fun things. There's a blind actress here in New Hampshire who's going to be our grand marshal, but we'll have a lot of events to make it special.
If people aren't able to go, how are some ways they can help or donate to the cause?
The number one thing we want is awareness of it. That's why, the Walk for Sight is an awareness event. But come to our website. You can donate to the walkers. You can donate to our organization because we are publicly funded largely to be able to do the charitable work we do. But, just spread the mission of our mission as far and wide as possible. That's the best thing anybody can do.
Now, two things I want to talk to you about, Randy. In addition to the Walk for Sight, you are a double black belt in karate. So now that we're friends, next time there's a tree down on my way into work, can I just call you up and just chop it in half for me, Randy?
I wish it was that easy. It's not all the Karate Kid. I got my second degree. It's been a number of years, but when I first started going blind, it's one of the things I did. How can I increase my focus, my awareness?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But that's just like, how long does it take to get a black belt, though? That just seems so amazing to me. I think you might be only the second person I've ever met that has a double black belt.
So, like anything, practice makes progress. The more we practice anything, the better we get. How dedicated are you? I was going 5 days a week. That, helped me advance. But it was still my first black belt, probably 3 to 5 years. My second black belt, another 3 to 5 years. All right. But all of that, it's all about how much you put into it in that life.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, let me ask you this, though. And it's interesting you say that because I have a 6-year-old daughter. And she loves karate. She loves the idea of karate. She has friends that do it. I think she should take lessons, but she seems a little bit nervous, apprehensive. Any advice I could pass on to her to just maybe get started?
One of the things I feel, everything is daunting until you do it. And, sometimes you remind people of something they've accomplished and how maybe it was intimidating at first, but once they got a little bit of work in, how much more natural and easy it became. That's true of blindness, but it's true of karate when you're 6 years old. And I always ask this question. Right? We do risk management. We think, well, if I do this could go wrong. I might be embarrassed. I might get hurt. What we fail to do is do the other part. What happens? What's the risk if we don't? We can stagnate. Our life can be so much more rich when we choose experiences.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm just going to play that back for her when I talk to her. Sadie, sit down. Randy has something to tell you. But this is even more amazing. If you climbed to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, and I don't mean like in the Monty Python sketch. You actually did this. When did you do Mount Kilimanjaro?
So 2015.
That's unbelievable. And you must have so many stories. But like, what's the craziest thing that happened to you on Mount Kilimanjaro?
On Mount Kilimanjaro, so it's the challenge there, because the White Mountains teach you how to hike anything here. But on Mount Kilimanjaro, the oxygen is thin. You're at 19,300 feet. And they tell you it's 1 breath per step. Now, I usually hike with my guide dogs, but not at that elevation because we don't know how to watch for the signs of elevation sickness. But we're up on the summit, and I use human guides, and we get ready to leave. And I say, who's ready to guide me? There's no answer, no response. I'm like, who's ready to try? No response. Who can hear me? Oh, yeah, no, we can hear you. They couldn't breathe. They couldn't talk. Nobody thought they could do it. The trick about a mountain is up is optional, down is mandatory. So how do we make that happen? And we worked through it, obviously, because here I am, not stuck on Kilimanjaro.
Yeah, and I always say that to people, too, and they say, like, just randomly, we're going to go a different direction. I'm like, be aware that down is a direction. So when there are things associated with the risk. We were talking about this also as well. You have a book as well that people can check out. What's the name of this book?
I wrote "See You at the Summit." It's my blind journey from the depths of loss to the heights of achievement.
Yeah.
And blindness isn't the biggest loss. That's the secret. But I do a lot of presentations. I wrote the book with my wife Tracy. I did the writing. She told me the parts that I had to redo, and it was a good partnership on that front. But really, I do a lot of presentations. People say, "How do you get the mindset? How do you get the approach that you take?" And that's not a simple answer. So there's a book. I got a copy that I'll give you, John, in a few minutes.
I appreciate it so much. And, of course, we talked about Swirl a little bit at the beginning, and a couple guide dogs for you. Swirl, and then you had a golden retriever as well.
So he's my 4th dog.
Yeah.
And, the sad part of it is they're going to work less than you want them to. The good part is hopefully they get to retire and live the good life when they're tired of their job.
Right.
The reality, though, is you do have to go through that transition. And like anybody you work with, you build a relationship, you become good at working together, and then you have to start over again.
What advice might you give people? Because I know that service animals are a big thing right now, where they're going on airplanes, they're going on trains, things like that. And but at the same time, there's some people that just for whatever reason, whether it's an incident, childhood trauma, whatever, they might be afraid of certain animals. What advice would you give to someone with a service dog, service animal of some kind, if they encounter someone who may be a little bit put off? Like, what might you say to just say, like, hey, this is a cool animal. You don't have to. You can just relax.
Yeah, the first thing is the approach, and it's the same approach for anything. Kindness and compassion take you a long way in this world. Try to understand their reasoning and give them some space and say, here's a very well-trained dog. He's not going to go near you. He's going to be relaxed and just tend his job, and I'll help you in any way I can. Right? Give him that option. What do you need?
Oh, good.
Same question I'd ask somebody who's blind, right? Or somebody with any challenge. What do you need? So many times people they guess, and we are all the best experts for what we need, hopefully. So ask the question. That way I don't have people trying to drag me around because they think they're helping me. And similarly, I don't show them that my dog's okay by stepping up and letting my dog sniff them. That's probably going to go worse in the trauma scale.
That's a great point, because thank you so much for saying that, because I've seen people try to do that, especially with kids who are a little scared of dogs. And I'm like, think this through a little bit. Yeah. Getting closer probably isn't going to help things right now.
But you mentioned your 6-year-old daughter. A lot of times with children, I'll offer the parent, I can have him lay down and tell him he's off duty so they could approach, because now he's a little more relaxed and it's their choice whether to step up or not. But He's a big boy. Standing up, he could be intimidating.
Yeah, absolutely. You also do this really cool thing called Words for Wednesday, and it's on the Future Insight social media channels, correct? Is that where we find this?
You got it. It's on all of them, right? It's on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even out on LinkedIn. And the goal is this. In the middle of COVID, I started sharing a couple of quotes for perspective in the middle of the week because people were struggling. And I'm purported to be a little bit of a resiliency expert, which is how do you handle challenge? How do you handle tough times? And honestly, I believe in positive momentum. Take something that starts you in a good direction. And that's what Words for Wednesday is. It's usually a quote from somebody that I break down a little bit to help us look at the world, ironically for a blind guy, a little differently.
I know that it's not technically Wednesday right now, Randy, but I'm wondering if you could just give me some words for wisdom as we go out here.
You know, things do not always get easier, but with the right approach, we can get better and stronger at managing them. And that's just the notion we can grow in our ability to handle challenge. That's important because challenge is hard for all of us.
Anything else people should know for the Walk for Sight or the organization? Anything else that I forgot to get to?
Absolutely. You know, I'll share this. There's 28,000 people in New Hampshire who could benefit from our services. And the number one challenge is awareness, helping people realize that we're here, helping connect us to them. And if they can share that news, we can show to them that there truly is a better future in sight.
Thank you so much. And again, it is futureinsight.org. And then if you'd like to check out the Walk for Sight, it's futureinsight.org/Walk for Sight. An amazing story and an amazing man. Thank you so much to Randy Pierce. Thank you to Tiffany. Thank you to Ben and Jerry. And thank you for listening to Ryman in the Morning on Demand.